Hi, I'm Halima. I'm a psychology and neuroscience practitioner. Today we're talking about something that a lot of people experience without realizing, and that is why calm can feel so unsafe. Why are you more comfortable in chaos than peace? And how childhood experiences can shape the way your nervous system reacts to everyday life. And today I want to break this down in a way that's simple, human, and actually help you understand yourself better. If you grew up around unpredictability, conflict, emotional instability, or even loss, this will probably make sense to you immediately. To most people, anxiety comes in relation to stressful event. But for some people, the opposite actually happens. Calm feels stressful. To explain it simply, this is when your nervous system starts to scan for threats when there is none. If you grew up in a chaotic environment, your nervous system learned very quickly to constantly scan for threat. This is what we also call hypervigilance. And what happens when you leave that environment and things are safe and calm and quiet? Well, your nervous system is still scanning for potential threats because that's how it's learned to operate and survive in the world. If I'm always scanning for potential threats, then I'm always prepared to handle said threats. So for some people, chaos is what felt the most normal. So when everything is calm around you, your brain does not read this as safety. It reads it as unknown, and this unknown feels dangerous because it's not detecting any threats that it can react and protect you from, and that to your nervous system is terrifying. So in other words, it means that your nervous system is stuck in a constant fight or flight mode. Let me break down exactly how this vicious circle happens, where you end up being stuck in a constant fight or flight loop. What happens is, first, you have chronic hypervigilance. When children grow up in an environment where things change quickly, adults are inconsistent, the brain learns to constantly monitor for threat. And this constant monitoring is what we call hypervigilance. Another way that you can notice hypervigilance is if you're really good at reading very micro body language, if you're very good at detecting the slight emotion change in a person's behavior, or if you're very good at detecting tone of voice changes, anything that makes you feel like a person is suddenly become a threat. If you've always been really good at this naturally without having to study it or try really hard to figure out how it works, you picked this up probably from a childhood environment where you were forced to learn how to scan for it. So then your nervous system adapts to the world and learns that being in a state of fight or flight is how we survive. This is not a weakness, it's physiology. It just means that your sympathetic nervous system becomes your baseline, your normal. And the body and the nervous system trusts familiarity, not positivity. So that means that chaos is predictable, peace is not safe. So your brain prefers predictability over safety. It would rather go into a familiar, stressful state than enter a calm state that it's never learned how to tolerate. So why do you relax during chaos? How does it actually happen? And by the way, who doesn't want to be the person who is calm in chaos? That's the person you go to during chaotic event to figure out, like, what are we doing? What's happening? That person will know exactly what to do next, by the way. But this is why some people are super calm during chaotic emergencies, because it's familiar. They know how to handle the situations. Because you become the stable one while everyone else is panicking. You go into problem-solving mode instantly. You thrive in this super high pressure environment, and crisis makes sense to your body. Also, you probably rehearsed this scenario multiple times, so you know exactly how to proceed. Another common theme I see with people who are stuck in fight or flight, and by the way, I am one of those people. I say am because I think that I'm not sure that you ever fully overcome it. I think that you learn how to minimize it and turn it into a strength. But I'll get back on this towards the end. Something that I've noticed that people who are stuck in the fight or flight mode have in common. These people tend to really enjoy relaxing while watching crime shows, horror movies, ER scenes or ER shows. Think The Walking Dead, Grey's Anatomy. These stories, these shows tend to mirror the level of danger and chaos that your body is used to. Your brain gets to feel at its baseline natural state when watching these shows, and it gets to practice its threat response. While you're watching a show, you're also picturing how you would react in this situation, what you would do differently, and so on and so forth. And lastly, your body is enjoying it because it's predictable adrenaline. And finally, the other thing that I've noticed people who are stuck in fight or flight tend to do is create scenarios when there is none happening. So you might be sitting in public transport, for example, going home from work, and you'll start to imagine, okay, what if something catastrophic happened right now? And you will literally play out everything from the beginning to the end on how you would handle the situation, who you would say, where's the exit, how many people, and so on and so forth. And you do this. It's the way that the nervous system soothes itself in an environment that is not chaotic, because it needs to feed this adrenaline to get back to baseline. So how do you start healing this? How do you start not constantly being hypervigilant and not constantly being super anxious? The first thing I will always say is that this is not a bad personality trait. This is not a personality flaw. It's just a nervous system adaptation. And of course, it can be rewired. You can also see this as a strength, because as I said, who doesn't want to be the person who stays calm in chaos when everyone else is panicking? It can 100% become a strength once we tame it and we are aware of it and it doesn't control our life. It becomes a maladaptive response if the anxiety of safety doesn't allow you to stay in a safe environment. If the anxiety of safety gives you panic attack when the room you're in is too quiet. This is what we want to work to fix, but we don't want to get rid of it completely, right? One of the ways that really helps to deal with hypervigilance is to work with the mind and the body. Work with the mind and think inner child work. Where was the last time that I felt like this? Where do these feelings come from? When did my nervous system become hypervigilant? And then we work with the body. When do I feel the most reactive? How does it manifest? Is my heart rate racing? Is my breath becoming shallow? Are my thoughts racing? Am I not able to just sit still for 5 minutes in a quiet room by myself? So the way we do this is we introduce moments of calm and safety in microdoses. We can start with 5-10 minutes of quiet space, no phone, no distractions, just you and yourself, and that's it. And sometimes that alone can feel incredibly overwhelming. Think of it this way: your body has not felt safe in calm because it hasn't had enough calm to practice. You can't force yourself into peace. You have to introduce it step by step. Think of your nervous system as a tiny little child who's terrified of the world. We don't want to push it into the most terrifying things that it can do. We want to take its hand slowly and guide it gently, and accept that sometimes it's going to try and it's going to backfire, and that's okay. We just come back another time when we feel calmer and ready. So instead of trying to meditate for an hour or trying to be calm all day, we can give our body calmness in tiny little doses that it can handle. Like a 30 seconds slow breathing exercise when there is nothing to be chaotic about. Maybe you're just sitting at home and it's quiet, no one's home yet, it's just you, and you feel the urge to keep yourself busy or exercise or whatever. Practice staying still for a minute or even 30 seconds and see how your nervous system reacts. Is it telling you, oh my God, what's going on? What are we doing? Get up, this is not working. Do you feel like your patience runs very thin very quickly? See how quickly it reacts, and see if you can push it for 5-10 seconds more at a time. It can be something as small as eating your meal without rushing. Really, it's about slowing down. Think of all the practices that you do every day that feel like for some reason you're rushing through them like it's a competition, whether that's cooking or taking a shower or working or anything. See if you can force yourself to do them slower. If you can force yourself to do them a little more slowly. See if you can do these things a little more slowly. Slow your breath down as you do them too. Watch your shoulders. They're probably constantly raised like this. Bring them down. If you do one thing, watch the shoulders. Pay attention to your body language while you do those things. You're probably tensed up, shoulders are tight, jawline is clenched, fists are tight. Let's see if we can pay attention to those things and relax our shoulders, unclench our jawline. Now you heard that click. And relax our fingers and slow down our breathing. If we're talking, we're going to adapt and change our voice to a deeper voice. A deeper voice relaxes and soothes the nervous system. So let's see if we can practice these things 5 to 10 minutes a day to start with. And these are some gentle practices that you can teach your nervous system. It's not through force, not through years of talking therapy, but just through gentle everyday practices. Now let's move on to answering some questions that I received in my DMs in my TikTok channel. Is it trauma if I feel anxious when everything is fine? It's not always trauma, but often it stems from early life unpredictability. Your body basically doesn't trust peace, and it's learned to anticipate threat as a form of protection. Take veterans as an example of how this plays out, not necessarily in early life consequence, but from much later trauma. So trauma can happen at any time, of course, but I would say that a state of hypervigilance probably happens as a consequence of multiple little or multiple big consecutive traumas. But yes, a soldier that comes back from war is not going to feel safe in a world where there is no war, because it's learned how to constantly prepare for danger. It's learned how to constantly anticipate for danger, how to constantly assume that the world is a threat, that everybody is not to be trusted, and that person's worldview is just that the world is a threat. So taking that person and putting them into a world where everything's fine, there is no threat, there is no bombs, there is no one wanting to hurt you in the corner, this person is not going to know how to operate. Question 2, why do I sabotage calm relationship? Oh, that's an interesting one, because it's very much related to being in a constant state of hypervigilance and fight or flight, and to having the baseline of chaos as your norm. It means that your nervous system, when it meets another person, it's 1000% going to look into, think of two people meeting is basically two nervous systems meetings. Our body, our personality is just the outer shell of that. What makes the decisions for us, what before our mind can even catch on, is our nervous system. And when you meet someone who matches your nervous system, guess what? You're going to get along with them so well. They're going to feel so familiar. You're going to get that feeling of like, I feel like I've known this person forever. And the reality is that's just your nervous system's matching. Now, whether that's a good or bad things depends on what your nervous system considers as safe, right? So to answer the question, why do I sabotage calm relationships? It's because the nervous systems do not match. Question 3, can I fix this by thinking positively? Yes and no, because as I said, this is where the mind-body connection comes back. The nervous system is completely separate from your mind. So you can heal your mind in relation to hypervigilance. You can learn to not have negative thoughts, but this is not an entirely psychological issue. This is very much a physiological thing, and your nervous system cannot be talked out of reaction. Your nervous system can only heal through experience. So, you know, when you hear that the thing that scares you the most is probably the thing that you should go after, it's so true, because the things that you're afraid of are things that you need healing from. And this is why when I tell you that the way you fix this is not through going to therapy and talking about it, it's through sitting calmly in a quiet space, just to show your nervous system that, see, it's fine. Nothing happened. There's no one here, and we don't need to scan for it. We can relax. So I hope that answers that question. Question 4 is, why do I feel so tired when I finally relax? And the answer is, when your nervous system is stuck in a fight or flight, that means that it's constantly sending adrenaline and cortisol throughout the day. It means that it's constantly activated. For a normal person or someone who doesn't have a fight or flight, this fight or flight response is not going to be constantly activated. This activation was only supposed to happen in response to a real threat. So if you think biologically how we were programmed to have this response if a lion jumped out of the bushes and our fight or flight kicks in and we run or fight if you feel like fighting a lion. But what happens in our modern world, where there is no such real threat, and yet this is constantly activated? You're constantly jump-starting this adrenaline, and yet there is no way to let it out because there is no actual threat. So it's like constantly starting your car without ever going anywhere. At some point, it's just gonna break down. And once you finally actually are able to shut down this response and relax, you're going to feel so incredibly tired for a very long period of time. And that's a good sign. That means your nervous system is healing. And it is one of the main and first signs that someone's nervous system is healing is if they feel constantly tired and sleepy. And question 5, how long does it take to feel safe in calm? For this one, everyone's going to be different, but the key is consistency, not intensity. It's more about creating small moments of calm as decided by you. I don't think that someone else should decide for you how you practice feeling safe in calmness. I really think that playing around and trying out different things, it could be putting on some really calm music and reading a book for an hour in the evening by yourself, and not a horror story. Something calm and quiet and peaceful. For me, it was it could be standing like the Superman position in complete stillness, maybe in the forest, and allowing the sensation of anxiety to come up and being like, it's fine, you can be nervous, but we're safe. See? It's totally safe. It's gonna be different for everybody. So how long it takes, it completely varies on the person. This is a process. You're not meant to perfect it. There is no perfect way to healing. You're meant to notice small shifts, acknowledge them, and reward yourself for them. Most importantly, treat yourself with compassion. This is the way that your body and your brain has figured how to keep you alive. This is a result of you adapting to your environment. The good news is it can readapt to a new environment, and this time towards safety. That is all for today. Thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far. If you want a deeper dive into the nervous system and practices to heal it, let me know in the comments. And I'll see you next time for another video on the mind-body connection and how we heal towards a better version of ourselves.